Video games that could easily be made into movies. For the longest time, after the original Super Mario movie came out in 1993, video game movies were hit or miss. However, things seem to be taking a turn for the better. We've been getting video game movies from people who are familiar with the games, or at the very least, want to be respectful of the source material. The Sonic movies, that new Mario movie, the Mortal Kombat reboot, the Last of Us TV show, not to mention all the other stuff that we could be getting in the near future. And even though they're more centered towards kids and families, those Sonic movies are great examples of what video game movies should be. They've really captured the essence and spirit of the characters well. There's no two better examples than Shadow and Knuckles. Knuckles is a lot like his character from the early games. He's militant, he's disciplined, he's gruff, but at the same time, he's always ready and willing to fight somebody. He's not at all like how he is in newer material, where he's like if Patrick Starfish and Kronk had a baby. Pat Trunk. Kronkrick? Kronkrick's better. I would not dare call movie Knuckles stupid. Like, he's not. He's just dim. Like, but at the same time, he's a lot like how he is in the early materials. And Shadow is also a perfect translation. Although they do water down his edginess quite a bit. He doesn't curse. He doesn't famously go, "Where are those damn Chaos Emeralds?" He doesn't have a gun. He has like a laser pistol, and then he loses it after that one scene in the Speedway fight. But it's still like a near perfect translation from the Sonic games into Sonic movies. Anyway, there's still a lot more games to work with that could be feasible movies. Now there's probably a bunch of stuff I didn't get to, and this post I wrote was long enough, so I'll probably do like a part 2 at some point, so please just bear with me. Alright, let's begin. Number 1, Crash Bandicoot. Crash Bandicoot first arrived in the PS1 days and was seen as a competitor to both Sonic and Mario. The character would go on to have several games throughout the 90s and the 2000s. The most recent of which was a direct sequel to the original 3 games in 2020, aptly named Crash Bandicoot 4: It's About Time. The story of Crash starts off with evil mad scientist Dr. Neo Cortex, whose goal is to create an army of mutant animal slaves to take over the world, using his patented machine, the Cortex Vortex. However, every single animal he tried failed until he got to a small eastern barred barracuda. Only problem with the machine Vortex was that it was highly unpredictable, as his assistant Embryo, spelled N.Bryo, tried to warn him about. The machine turned Crash into the form we see him as today, but it also gave him full sentience and autonomy. He could see that whatever Cortex was plotting is wrong, so he then escaped from Cortex's lab and castle. So in a way, Cortex created his own archenemy and the character that would become his very foil. Most of the games revolve around Crash having to stop Cortex from using whatever harebrained schemes he has to take over the world, and also occasionally rescuing his girlfriend / love interest Telna. He is often accompanied by his little sister Coco, another Bandicoot, Crunch, and a witch Dr. Mask named Aku Aku. There is also an evil variant named Uka Uka, who helps Cortex with his goals of taking over the world. Crash could easily work in live action or animation. And I know that there's going to be an animated series at some point on Netflix, but I want an actual movie. The only problem is that most of the stuff I've seen depicts him as a mute character, aside from occasional noises. And I would just whip something up, but Crash is now a property I know a great deal about. The only reason I know this much is because of a YouTuber I like and follow, Categories. He's a huge Crash fan. His real name is Jim Caddick. He just goes by Categories or Caddy mostly in his videos. Crash was previously owned by Activision Blizzard, who, since the Bobby Kotick hostile workplace environment scandal broke out, has been bought out by Microsoft and Xbox. They haven't done anything with the property since. Yet. Only time will tell if Microsoft is willing to give Crash the big screen treatment. And another thing is, the Sonic movies managed to have Jim Carrey as Dr. Robotnik, who's basically just recapturing his shtick from his earlier movies, and everyone loves that. So my thing is, for Cortex, you would have to find someone at that same comedic caliber as Jim Carrey. Spyro the Dragon. Before he was the face of the Skylanders games, Spyro the Dragon actually had his own video game series. Much like Crash Bandicoot, Spyro started out in the PS1 days and continued being in games from there. Most Spyro games had revolved around finding and rescuing all of a certain group. In the first game, Spyro had to find and rescue all the other dragons who were turned into jade statues by Nasty Nork and his Nork army. In the next games, he would have had to find all the missing dragon eggs and all the missing fireflies. Spyro is typically accompanied by a dragonfly he named Sparks and is aided by another group of secondary characters. Hunter, Bianca, Sergeant Bird, Blink the Mole, and the Professor. After the Skylanders fad died off, Spyro the Dragon has been dormant since. Much like Crash, Spyro was also owned by Activision Blizzard, who was since bought out by Xbox. Metroid. One of Nintendo's premier franchises next to Mario and Legend of Zelda. In Metroid, you play as Samus Aran, an intergalactic bounty hunter and a former member of the Galactic Federation. As Samus, you come across many enemies that need to be stopped, such as the titular Metroids, jellyfish-like alien creatures that can brainwash and control any organic life they come across. This could easily work in the realms of both animation and live action. Although I believe most people would be interested in a live action Samus. Especially if I feel like seeing a live action Samus in the blue jumpsuit when she's not in her exosuit would be what most people want to pay for. It all depends on who would play her. Brie Larson has stated in the past that she'd love to have the opportunity, but I've only seen her in the Captain Marvel movies, and if she is a good actress, those movies aren't great examples of her work. I was thinking along the lines of Scarlett Johansson, Margot Robbie, maybe even Anya Taylor-Joy. Mega Man. Mega Man is a robotic android soldier created by Dr. Lights to fight the evil Dr. Wily, Light's former trusted friend and partner in his vast robot army. Mega Man has been sadly dormant for several years. However, there have been rumors about a Mega Man movie, but I don't know when or if it will even happen. Last I heard, the rights to it were picked up by Netflix, but I haven't heard anything since then. Kirby. Kirby is arguably Nintendo's next biggest franchise, aside from Mario and Zelda. As Kirby, players must defend his home planet of Popstar from various threats and villains. Kirby also has the ability to take on the forms of abilities of whatever he eats. Again, this is another character I don't know that much about, but he could have potential in Hollywood in the right hands. Rayman. Odds are, if you hear the name Rayman, you probably think more about the Rabbit Minion clones. But since 1995, there used to be a Rayman game series centered around the character itself. The Rabbids more or less stole the franchise and is funder. Star Fox. Star Fox was another flagship Nintendo franchise. The game revolves around a group of anthropomorphic animal pilots. This game series is where the iconic phrase "do a barrel roll" first came from. God of War. God of War revolves around Kratos, a former servant to the Greek gods of Olympus, who was accompanied in battle by his son Atreus. There was also a sequel called Ragnarok, where Kratos went head-to-head with the gods of Norse mythology. Grand Theft Auto. The GTA games are quite possibly one of the most successful game series out there, whilst also being the most controversial. Simply put, the GTA games give players the opportunities to do whatever they want. Steal cars, kill innocents, go to strip clubs, rob banks, you name it. It's a game series that revolves around the darker aspects of life. But there could be potential for a movie or show here. That is, if Rockstar Games hasn't thought of that already. Red Dead Redemption. Red Dead Redemption comes from the same studio that made GTA. And it has basically the same basic principle. You run around freely in the Old West, being able to do whatever you want. And the game revolves around former outlaw John Marston. And that's pretty much all I've got. So again, I know there's probably a bunch of other potential games I didn't get to yet, but I'll probably do a part 2 at some point.